Feature speaker. It's been so long, I almost forgot who it was. Yeah, right. Okay, our feature speaker for today is both a glider pilot and an instrumented-rated pilot. In fact, he told me that he was going to fly into the Ramona airport today, and an associate of his was going to pick him up and bring him here, but that didn't happen. Apparently, it was clouded over up in L.A. Aren't you glad you live in San Diego County? But he's here, and he's a very successful writer, film director, TV editor, blogger, master of the new media, dynamic speaker. I know you've seen him on YouTube promoting conservative ideas, where his productions have inspired millions. I'll bet you didn't know that he also wrote a few scripts for the blockbuster TV series of a few years ago, Cheers. My favorite. Our speaker is best known for his web-based productions, Eject, 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 Afterburner, National Security Review, Trifecta, Clavin, Whittle, and You. Millions have seen his firewall segments, and we've all seen him at work as the virtual president. In fact, we were treated to a virtual president show last January, right here at Ramona. His newest YouTube initiative is called the Bill Whittle channel, and if you haven't seen that, it's really simple, www.billwhittle.com. You can even subscribe. For only $10 a month, you can help support what he's trying to do about getting his message into the schools and across the country. I think that's his latest initiative. This guy is always running on Afterburner, so it's hard to keep up with him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Ramona, the rock star of the conservative movement, Mr. Bill Whittle.
Hi, everybody. It's first of all, it's always so good to be back in Ramona. It's a little tiny piece of America right here in California. It's one of my favorite places. I had the best possible time last time I was here. The video was great, and it's just an absolute joy to be back. Before I get started with my remarks today, just a couple things from some of the stuff that you heard just a few moments ago. It's an important correction, but this scripts that I did for Cheers were spec scripts. They weren't produced. I don't want to give anybody the idea they saw one of my episodes, but I was working with the staff and had a lot of fun working with them. They're tremendously talented people. And again, before we get started, just two other things. I was really pleased that you ran that Afterburner that I did called Mailing It In, where I talked about my experience at the post office, where it was a really well-run post office. And the reason I bring that up is because I was back down there yesterday, and I took a couple boxes in just to drop off, and I walked in the door, and the second I walked in the door, pretty much the same 5 people were there, and this one woman looked up and went, "It's him," and she disappeared out the back. And I'm standing in line, and a few moments later, this woman walks up to me from in back of the back, and I go, "Oh my God, they know who they saw it, they know who I am, they probably got a tree with a rope out back waiting for me." She was as nice as could be. She was as nice as could be. Everybody in the post office was as nice as could be. They said, "Thank you so much for showing people that we try hard and that we're working hard." And I said, you know, my dad was a hotel manager, and all of this comes from the top down. This one woman at this post office, the person who was the director of the Sherman Oaks post office, just decided that she was going to provide the best customer service she could with the resources, and it happened. This is what happens when you get individuals with integrity into any kind of position. She just decided that this particular post office was going to be run as well as she could possibly run it, and so it was. So I think that's really important that we don't ever lose track of the fact that so much of this is attitude. It's not even the structure, it's just the attitude of the people who are in charge. If you can change the attitudes of people, you can change the attitude of just about everything. That was a tremendous experience I had there at that post office, and they were thankful and grateful, and I was enormously relieved because I really thought I might have been in some real trouble after all the things I've said about the government. And just one final thing before we get started. I sure do hate to come out here and have really the first things out of my mouth be disagreement with some of you guys on some key positions, but I just want to talk real briefly about that California bill that says that a person who's in school can decide what gender they're going to be and then use the appropriate restrooms and showers. I'm just speaking to you as a guy who was a 16-year-old boy once. If that bill passed and I was in high school, the next day I would have a Surrender Dorothy t-shirt on, and I'd be singing show tunes, and I'd go to every single football game, and I'd cry anytime anybody got hit because of the awful, awful, awful level of violence. And a week or so later, as I was standing there in the women's shower room, I would say, I feel so much more comfortable here than in the men's room, which is so intimidating. But here, as we take a shower surrounded by the cheerleading squad, I feel strangely at ease and very comfortable. We didn't know you were gay, Bill. I'm just confused. If only I had someone to talk to. Just think it over is all I'm saying. It's been a year since I've been here. It's been an interesting year. When I was here last time, we were just a few months after that loss in 2012, just that heartbreaking loss, and it looked like, my God, nothing is going to change the way that people view this president or this administration or these policies. But it's been a good year for us because people have changed the way they view this president. We've known who he was and what he was from the beginning, but more and more Americans are waking up to what he is now. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want a 2014 message. I don't want to come back with what I said in 2013 last year, because we have interesting opportunities that we didn't have before, and I'd like to talk about those. Excuse me one second. I can't ever take a drink of water without thanking Marco Rubio personally for... Oh, man, that's such a relief. So what's going on out there? What is going on out there? Why is it that people like us can look at this administration, this president, look at everything that's going on, and see it clearly, but virtually no one else does? Well, it turns out, in my opinion, there's an expression for this. Some of you may know it. It's not a common expression. I didn't know it until about a year ago. But I believe the United States of America is going through a process called gaslighting. Anybody know what that means? Gaslighting, you ever raise your hand, ever heard the term gaslighting? A couple people, very few have. Gaslighting is a term that draws its name from a movie called Gaslight back in, I think it was 1948. It was an Ingrid Bergman film. And the premise of Gaslight was that they were going to try and drive this woman insane. And the way they were going to try and drive her insane was, there was a group of people kind of forming this little conspiracy. And the way they were going to drive her insane was when something would happen, everybody around her would just deny that it happened. So somebody would drop I didn't see the movie, but just for example, somebody would drop a plate or a group of plates down in the kitchen. There'd be this loud crash. And she'd walk down and say, what happened? And all the people around would say, what are you talking about? Nothing happened. Didn't you hear a crash? Well, I didn't hear a thing. Didn't somebody just drop something? Are you okay? No, none of us heard a thing. And gaslighting is the process by which a group of people pretend that something didn't happen that actually did happen. It actually happened right in front of your eyes, but the way they drive you nuts, intentionally, is just, no, that never happened. I took a look at gaslighting, and on the Wikipedia page, it's Wikipedia, so you know it's true. But listen to this, because this is actually a clinical term. Psychologists use this term. Some interesting analogs here, if you think about what the Obama administration is doing, which is trying to gaslight all the rest of us. It says that psychologist Martha Stout states that sociopaths frequently use gaslighting tactics. Sociopaths consistently transgress social mores, break laws, and exploit others, but are also typically charming and convincing liars who consistently deny wrongdoing. Thus, some who have been victimized by sociopaths may doubt their own perceptions. That's what gaslighting is. That's what gaslighting is. And we're being gaslit as a nation. And I'm not just going to make that assertion, I'm going to prove it. I could probably come up with hundreds of examples, but let's take 4. A couple years ago, Barack Obama was on television prior to an interview with a Russian ambassador, and the cameras were rolling. This was before the election. And he turned to the Russian ambassador and he said, listen, if you guys will just lay low and not give me any trouble for the next 6 months until after I'm reelected, we'll give you the missile defense shield that Poland, one of the most brave nations in the world that have been run over by the Russians, run over by the Nazis, we'll give you the missile defense shield that Poland just stuck their neck out for to be a part of for the defense of Eastern Europe on behalf of NATO and the United States. We'll just hand it to you. He didn't know the mic was on, but it was. There's no question about what he said. It wasn't hearsay. It wasn't like, oh, I heard he said this. Everybody who watched the video heard the President of the United States say to our mortal enemies, if you give me some political cover, I will give you part of the defense of the United States of America. Now, isn't that exactly precisely what Benedict Arnold did? Isn't that precisely what he did? In exchange for personal gain, I will hand over the defenses of West Point. Isn't that precisely what the archetypical traitor of America did? It's exactly the same thing he did. So why wasn't he indicted for treason? Why? Because no one made it a story. Everybody said, no, what are you talking about? What, treason? No, he was just making some comments. No, it's not treason. It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. It's having other people tell you that what you know is true isn't true. So let's move on. Right after the Benghazi attack, the president, for 10 days, said that we knew nothing about this attack. It was completely spontaneous. There was just a group of citizens walking down the street, and they heard about this YouTube video that had been on the station for 6 months ago, made by some American filmmaker who apparently was under the mistaken impression that the First Amendment protected his ability to say what he wants to. He's still in prison today, of course. But for 10 days, the President of the United States said, this is a spontaneous thing that just happened. Just happened. We had no way of knowing. There were just citizens walking down the streets, as they often do, with mortar tubes under their arms, and the next thing you know, our embassy is, our consulate rather, is under attack. He said it for 10 days. But then we find out that, no, we knew within 10 minutes. We had reconnaissance drones over that target. Forget about Hillary, forget about leaving those brave men out there to die for a minute. We knew, the American Command Authority knew, and the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, knew within 10 or 15 minutes of the start of attack. This was a coordinated al-Qaeda attack on the anniversary of 9/11, and the President of the United States, to cover his butt prior to his election, went out and said, no, this was a spontaneous thing for 10 days. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I said it was a terrorist attack all the time. Candy Crowley just backed me up in a presidential debate. How could I possibly be lying? You saw it with your own eyes, and you heard him with your own ears. And everybody said, no, what are you talking about? No, he never said that it was a movie. He always said it was a terrorist attack. No, we're being gaslighted. There was a red line in Syria. If this red line is crossed, if chemical weapons are used, we will be forced to respond. Well, chemical weapons were used, and the president's deciding he's going to take us to war in Syria. Hi, buddy. And all of a sudden, the American people in vast numbers say, we don't want to send our kids to die in a civil war between al-Qaeda and a murderous dictator. We don't have a dog in this fight. We'll fight for freedom, but if the two forces that are at war with each other are this murdering dictator, Assad, and al-Qaeda, I think we'll sit this one out. And all of a sudden, the president says, oh, I never made any reference to a red line. No, what are you talking about? I never said that. Yes, you did. No one else is calling me a liar or calling me a traitor, so it can't be true, right? It's gaslighting. I'll give you one more example. This one won't be too hard to process. 27 times the President of the United States, selling this abomination, went out there and said, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And now it turns out, no, you can't. And he denied that he said it. And the press said that he didn't say it. And there's 27 different occasions on tape, God knows how many he said that weren't on tape, that show that he said it. And people are telling you that this didn't happen, and every single one of you out there individually, at least you people have found each other. Think about all those Americans out there who are not part of an organization or a Tea Party group who sit there and think, I must be going nuts. I must be going out of my mind. I heard him sell this missile plan out to the Russians. I thought that was treason. I guess I'm wrong. I heard him say that it was all about a movie, but I guess I'm wrong. I heard him say that there was a red line we couldn't cross. I must be nuts. I guess I heard him say you can keep your own plan, but obviously no one else is reacting to this. So, I don't know. I guess it's just me. It's not you. These things happened. And every single one of them is an impeachable offense. And yet he's not touched, because we're being gaslighted by his associates.